Now that we've added and subtracted integers using models, counters, and number lines, we have to be able to add and subtract integers without those models. So we can add and subtract integers using an algorithm, which it really is just a fancy word for a set of rules. So when you're adding integers, here are what the rules are. If the two values have the same sign, then you're going to add and use the same sign. So if you have a positive number and a positive number, you add them together and your answer is positive. Just like 6 plus 5 is 11. If you have a negative and a negative, you're going to add them together and your answer is negative. Negative 6 plus negative 5 is simply negative 11. If the signs are different, then you subtract and you take the sign of the number with the greatest absolute value. Okay, so let's look at a couple of these together, and we are going to figure out how we can use these algorithms to help us. All right, so let's look at A first. Well, I've got a negative 9 and a positive 6. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to look at it and decide which is going to have a greater absolute value. Well, negative 9 is going to have the greater absolute value. So I know that my answer is going to be negative. Since the signs are different, I know that I'm going to subtract them. 9 minus 6 is 3. So I get negative 3 as my answer. Now I'm going to make you skip down to below negative 9 plus 6. Here I have a positive 4 and a positive 7. So I know then that all I have to do with these numbers is I have to add them together. 4 plus 7 gives me 11. And that's it. My answer is done. I want you to come over now to the D column. We're going to look at this problem here together. When I look at this problem, I look and I notice that I have two negatives. So that means my answer is going to be negative. So then I'm going to take 6 and 8 and I'm going to add them together and I'm going to get 14. What I want you to do is I want you to use your highlighter. If they have different signs, I want you to highlight the number that has the greater absolute value. Okay? So let's look at the rest of column A. We'll finish it together. I've got a negative 7 and a positive 12. Well, that means that 12 is my greater absolute value. It's positive, so my answer is going to be positive. So let's take 12 and let's subtract 7. Well, 12 minus 7 would give me 5. So I know my answer is 5. Well, then I've got negative 9 and positive 9. Well, they both have the same absolute value. It's a negative 9 and a positive 9, which is the same as 9 zero pairs. So I know that that's going to give me 0. Now what I have to do is I have to add the numbers for column A and make sure that it gives me 13. If it gives me 13, then I know that I did this right. So let me start. I'm going to add 11 and 5 together first. 11 and 5 gives me 16. Well, then I've got a negative 3. So 16 plus negative 3. Whoops, not 13, Mrs. Castillo. Let's fix that. Negative 3. Well, 16 has a greater absolute value, so I know it's going to be positive. And 16 minus 3 is 13. So that matches exactly what I should have gotten. I want you to check the rest of the columns. See how you do. Check your work. Did you get the same thing that I got? If not, go back and fix them. All right, so the additive inverse is when a number and its opposite are added, the sum is 0. So the additive inverse is similar to adding a zero pair with counters. When we're subtracting integers, you want to rewrite the problem to add the integers. Then follow the rules for adding integers. We did this yesterday where we talked about we are really just adding the opposite. For example, 6 minus 7 is really adding, it's 6 plus negative 7. And I'm going to use a little phrase to help you with it. We're going to say add a line, change the sign. So what we do is we add a line to the subtraction sign and we change the number that comes after it. So let's look at negative 5 minus 9, for example. That means I'm going to add a line and change the sign. So I added a line to subtraction and made it addition, and I changed the positive 9 to a negative 9. So this is really negative 5 plus negative 9. And then we just use our adding rules. The signs are the same, so my answer is going to be negative, and 5 plus 9 is 14. I'm going to do the same thing here. We're going to add a line, change the sign. So I changed my subtraction to addition, and 3 is now a positive 3. 8 plus 3, then they're both positives, so we just add them together and we get a positive 11. For negative 2 minus negative 10, add a line, change the sign. So we get negative 2 plus 10. Well, positive 10 has our greater absolute value, so our answer is going to be positive. 10 minus 2 is 8. I want you to give these problems a try. Let's see how you do. All right, check your work. Did you get the same thing I got? If not, you need to fix it.